Thank you for joining us at this time. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The top stories: President Bola Tinubu orders immediate release of more than 102,000 metric tons of various grain types from strategic reserve, and the rice millers. Association of Nigeria. ECOWAS Commission President Umar Aliyu Toure urges bloc to remain united. President Bola Tinubu set to launch student loan scheme on the 21st of this month. Details coming up shortly. I am Omoife Osemere. Now, President Bola Tinubu has ordered the immediate release of more than 102,000 metric tons of various grain types from the Strategic Reserve and the Rice Millers Association of Nigeria. According to media reports, this is a temporary response to the nation's growing food crisis and the rising price of commodities. The government has also warned that those hoarding foodstuffs would be dealt with. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, revealed this to State House correspondents after the final leg of 3 meetings of the Special Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention at the Aso Villa, Abuja, yesterday. It would be recorded that angry youth and women took to the streets of Minna, the Niger State capital, and Kano to protest what they described as the rising cost of living in the country. A similar protest also erupted in Ondo State. Meanwhile, the Rivers State chapter of the Master Bakers Association of Nigeria has said the prices of the staple food will increase. This implies that consumers of bread in Rivers State may have to pay more as the increment took effect from February 7th, 2024. Chairman of the state chapter, Dr. Chidi Emmanuel, confirmed the price increase while speaking to newsmen after an emergency meeting of the association in Port Harcourt. Dr. Emmanuel said the high cost of materials as well as the increase in the cost of cargo clearance by the Central Bank of Nigeria, coupled with the rising cost of energy, had necessitated the increase in the prices of loaves of bread. He also said while the prices of loaves of bread will increase, the association will, however, maintain standards in the production of bread in the state, urging bread consumers to bear with the association. Now let's talk other matters. Well, West Africa's regional bloc ECOWAS has appealed for unity after emergency talks on the withdrawal of 3 cool-hit countries from the group. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS extraordinary session, also addressed President Macky Sall's decision to delay elections in Senegal, a major concern for the region that came just a week after Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger Republic declared their departure. The chairman of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council urged the 3 countries not to leave, warning that their exit would bring more hardship and do more harm to common citizens. It was gathered that Senegal's ministers attended, but representatives for Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Guinea, all suspended from ECOWAS following coups, were not present. ECOWAS Commission President Umar Aliyu Toure also urged the bloc to remain united, saying if there is a time for ECOWAS to stay together, that time is now. The Federal Roads Maintenance Agency is vowed to sustain the Operation Zero Potholes and Connect to Your Destination campaigns launched in December last year. The campaigns, according to reports, were aimed at eradicating all potholes on the country's federal and state highways, as well as reconnecting stranded communities cut off from other areas by virtue of the failing status of the roads. Former Managing Director, Engineer Emeka Agbasi disclosed this at the end of a 3-day inspection of rehabilitated Port Harcourt, Osiokpo, Elele, Emerelu, Imo State Border Road. Mbiama Junction section of the East-West Road, Okpolo, Elebele, Emea Road in Rivers, Bayelsa, and Eteabak Road in Akwa Ibom State. Agbasi, represented by the Director, Road Maintenance and Management Services, FEMA Headquarters, Abuja, Engineer Dr. Iniobong Osoro, said with the campaigns, bad roads would soon be a thing of the past in the country. Now, the Senate has uncovered $400 million in intervention funds domiciled in banks and other financial institutions for a couple of years. Chairman of a Senate Committee on Local Content, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, disclosed this during a session with the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB. Akpoti-Uduaghan stated that out of the intervention funds uncovered, $30 million was budgeted for capacity building in oil and gas, while $20 million was meant for women in oil and gas businesses. Another $50 million of local content development fund available for research and development in oil and gas industries was also domiciled in the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The senator, who questioned why the funds were lying fallow without Nigerians accessing them, called on the Nigeria Local Content Development Board to make the funding opportunities accessible to ordinary Nigerians. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, we shall beam our searchlight on Yobe State, which according to report is unsurprisingly on the list of states with high rates of out-of-school children. Dr. Muhammad Sani Idris, who is the Commissioner, Yobe State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, will be talking to us about the policies on basic and secondary education as far as Yobe State is concerned. This and more after the break. To join us again. Right, welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Now let's talk education matters, where President Bola Tinubu is expected to launch the student loan scheme at the State House, Abuja, on the 21st of February 2024. The Executive Secretary of the Nigeria Education Loan Fund, Dr. Akintunde Sawyer, who confirmed this, said the official launch will coincide with the start of applications from eligible candidates nationwide. It would be recorded that President Tinubu signed the Access to Higher Education Act 2023 into law last year, and this is to enable indigent students access interest-free loans for their educational pursuits in any Nigerian tertiary institution. The act, popularly known as the Student Loan Law, also established the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, which is expected to handle all loan requests, grants, disbursement, and recovery. Now, the fundamental principle of universal basic education in Nigeria is that everybody must have access to equivalent education comprehensively and co-educationally. The scope of basic education has been broadened after the World Declaration on EFA and the framework for action to meet basic learning needs. In time past, the challenges hovered around a lack of physical and human resource materials, insufficient infrastructure, and inadequate funding. Interest along the line is to eliminate illiteracy, improve the standard of all levels of education, and above all, to eliminate poverty among its citizenry. A varying degree of success studies have shown that one important area that need to be addressed is the capacity to efficiently and effectively manage education of all levels of the education system. But while some educationists had posited that educational development has been a major challenge for successive administration or government, if you like, since Nigeria's attainment of independence in 1960, the story seems to be different in Yobe State. Let's now beam our searchlights on Yobe State, which according to reports is unsurprisingly on the list of states with high rates of out-of-school children. A report by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs actually shows that despite the effort of the Yobe State government and its partners in mainstreaming disability inclusion in the education response, access to education by persons living with disabilities, that's PLWD, who are affected by conflict, is still a challenge. Also, the deteriorating conditions of wash facilities in schools are causing an increase in absenteeism and dropout of children, especially girls, in formal schools across Bade, Borsari, Jakusko, Gaydam, Yunusari, Tarmuwa, Potiskum, and some other local government areas. Now, an educationist who is said to be versatile in both Western and Islamic knowledge, Dr. Muhammad Sani Idris, has been the commissioner at Yobe State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education since the beginning of Governor May Malabuni's administration. He will be talking to us about the policies and on basic and secondary education as far as Yobe State is concerned. He joins us live via telephone this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. Happy to have me.
How is Yobe State, by the way?
Alhamdulillah.
All right. For starters, could you please talk us through the state of basic education in Yobe State at the moment? We understand that a lot has been going on there, so give us an insight. All right, I'm afraid we just have to take a quick break and try to reconnect, of course, with Dr. Mohammed Sani Idris, who is the commissioner, Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education right there in Yobe State. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. Thank you so much for your time. If you can hear me, let's have a conversation around the state of basic education in Yobe State at the moment. Talk us through that.
Okay, thank you once again for having me. I was saying that God in his infinite mercy decided this time around to bless Yobe and Yobians with a governor who is having a common passion and love for the revitalization of basic education. You know, prior to the advent of this government, hypothesis has been ranking us very low, and people are placing us always at the bottom of the educational ladder. So with the advent of this administration, His Excellency, in his wisdom, decided to declare a state of emergency on basic and secondary education. And that has actually resulted into so many activities that are now making Yobians to raise their head tall in the face of all other states when it comes to the issue of education. Prior to this administration, as I told you earlier, our students have not been performing well in WAEC examination, and we felt actually Yobe was losing its vacancies, various vacancies in various universities, because we don't have then qualified students to fit in those vacancies. Today, as you may have it, Europeans are now having access to their vacancies, and I think our performance in WAEC now is far above average. So one is happy that the effort is yielding results.
Okay.
And
All right. If you can hear me, Dr. Mohammed, you seem to have won the hearts of a number of people, with your antecedents as the commissioner. But could you help us get sense of the specific education programs that have earned you some of these accolades?
Yes, I want to tell you categorically that Europeans are appreciating what is called the Yobe educational spices. We have conducted a survey and we discovered that the reason why there was actually serious out of school children was because Europeans are more inclined to Quranic education than to Western education. And we felt that Quranic education and Western education can go hand in hand via dualization of our curriculum. So we decided to introduce Quranic memorization as part of our extracurricular activities after the school hours. I want to tell you that very soon with programs like this, issue of out of school children will soon be a thing of the past. Another issue is we have also succeeded in, converting the laziness on the part of the teachers via, emphasizing on self-imposed discipline. We met the teachers, we admonished them, we guided them, and we talked to them directly, we talked to them heart to heart. Because the issue of monitoring, as important as it is, you can monitor only when you are around. The way you decide to instill discipline in the heart of the teachers, taking into cognizance that on the day of judgment they will be resurrected and they will give account of every single minute they spent outside the classes. God will ask them and they will be resurrected to answer on the day of judgment. This has actually assisted us in appealing to the heart of the teachers that this work, despite the fact that they are earning salary, but it is also godly, for which they must give account on the day of judgment. Today, Europeans, teachers in your state, even without supervisors, they work bearing in mind that on the day of judgment they will give account. So this approach of self-imposed discipline has made teachers to be up and doing, and has handsomely given us, the performance we are rejoicing today. The other issue is also we have His Excellency has made it abundantly available all materials required, for teaching and learning. And just last week we distributed learning materials worth 1 billion naira. And I don't think in any of our secondary school now we are in shortage of any of the laboratory equipment. I want to clearly say it here without fear of contradiction that today we are senior secondary schools in Yobe State are overstaffed, courtesy of the employment exercise that was conducted in Yobe State. So we are basically on the right track, and our hope by the end of this year, Yobians will have the type of education they are fantasizing to have.
Dr. Mohammed Sani, quite a lot going on there in Yobe State, but we understand also that there are issues around access and continuity of education for girls and adolescents in conflict-affected local government areas. Are there plans to cater for, children with disabilities as well?
Yes, I think between last year and this year, we established 16 senior girls' day secondary schools. Actually, prior to the advent of this administration, all our girls' institutions are mainly boarding schools, and sometimes parents are skeptically after the insurgency to take their children to a boarding school. So what we did was actually to introduce senior girls' day secondary schools in most of these conflict-affected areas. Hitherto, we used to have about 20,000 students yearly, especially girls that are dropping and they are being considered out of school children. But I want to tell you that we have provided spaces for more than 30,000 students now. There is no single girl that is not proceeding from JSS 3 to SS1. Courtesy of both senior girls secondary schools we established.
How about children with disabilities, Doc?
Yes, children with disability. We have one school in Mamudo that is taking care of them, and His Excellency is actually doing all that is required to give them the type of education they deserve to have that will answer, their needs. And this year we are also planning to have another school with people with disability. And with that, I think the issue of people with disability not accessing education in Yobe State will be a thing of the past.
We understand also that Yobe State is on the list of states, with high rates of out-of-school children. And that brings me to the next question. For some people who, actually spoke to newsmen in recent past, they said is as a result of poverty. I mean, they cannot even afford, to pay, the school fees of their children. And that's the reason why some of these children are out of school. The question now is, how affordable is education or the school fees for basic and secondary education in Yobe State at the moment?
I want to share this glad tidings with you that in Yobe State education is actually free at a basic level, and what the schools are charging is not more than 500 naira as PTA levy, which we are also working hard to make sure that that is also parents are also relieved of it. This in addition to the fact that only in Yobe State, and I want to say that only in Yobe State that you come to school as a day student and you have one meal. So in all our senior secondary schools, senior secondary school students are having one meal as a way of encouraging them to come to learn in Yobe State. This survey of Yobe State being among the states with highest number of out-of-school children was conducted, I think, about 6 years old, and that was before the advent of this administration. I'm very sure that when another survey is conducted, you will now see that the out-of-school syndrome has drastically reduced in Yobe State, especially with the introduction of the Quranic education in our senior secondary schools.
Okay, Dr. Mohammed, I think the last one here would be on the issue of wash facilities in schools. We understand this is also a reason, or it is also causing an increase in absenteeism and drop out of children, especially girls, in formal schools across a number of local governments like Jakusko, Busari, Gaydam, Yunusari, Tarmua, and a host of others. What are you doing, to address that?
Actually, the issue of wash facilities, I want you to understand that Yobe State is a state that is coming out of the bondage of Boko Haram for over 10 years now, over a decade. Boko Haram has been unleashing their mayhems on us, and their main place of target is schools. Even I think about 3-4 days ago, there was an attack on some of the educational facilities in Gaydam. So what we are doing, we are building and they are destroying, and we will continue to build. I want to use this opportunity actually to appreciate the assistance we are getting from some of the partners that are helping to make education better in Yobe State, with particular reference to UNICEF. These wash facilities have actually been provided across most of our schools. And in this year's budget, we have captured a lot for the wash facilities. Very soon you will hear that difficulties in accessing wash facilities will be, a part in your business.
Dr. Mohammed, I'm afraid we just have to leave the conversation here. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much, my sister.
All right. Dr. Mohammed Sani Idris is the Commissioner, Yobe State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. And together we've been assessing policies on basic and secondary education in Yobe State. But because of time, I'm afraid we just have to leave it here for today. And that's it for news analysis. Thank you so much for watching. I am Omohefe Peace Osemere.